Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be walking us through the installation of DNS server. What is DNS? Okay, by definition we can say DNS actually means domain name system, domain name server. Domain name system. We can call it domain name server. And DNS is actually used to resolve names to IP. It's used to resolve name to IP and vice versa. Ideally, our computer only understands binary, only understands numbers. Our DNS server, it's an application. The DNS is the component that actually translates the numbers into human understandable format and helps the computer to also convert, a good example, say we want to browse www.amazon.com. Ideally, if we type this in our computer and we hit enter, the computer typically doesn't understand what Amazon.com is. So the first thing that happens, this request will have to go to DNS and be like, DNS, who is Amazon? And DNS will now respond and say, oh, Amazon is 10.10.10.4. So this is now when the traffic will go and hit Amazon. So pretty much DNS is the middle layer that translates names to IP and IP into names. So which simply means in every environment, in every computer environment that connects to the internet, you need the DNS server to do the interpretation. Without the DNS server, now, in order for us to communicate with other computer or reach other, now we have to go and do 10.10.4. Just imagine we want to go to Amazon, we have to type 10.10.10.8. We want to go to Yahoo, we have to type 10.10.10.30. We want to go to, Google, and we have to type 20.80. something. How many websites can we, practically have stored in our brain? But with this, we can easily store as many websites as possible. So DNS is the middleman doing all that for us. And from our previous class, I had mentioned before you install any application, you want to think about the package requirements of that application. What package do I need to install this application? You want to think about the service name of the application, okay? You want to think about the configuration path of that application. You want to think about the configuration file of that application. And you want to ask yourself, how do I start this application? How do I stop this application? And how do I restart this application? So these are very important questions you need to ask yourself on every application, pretty much. And if you understand the concept of all those things, then setting up an application will be fairly easy. Okay, for this class, I am going to turn off our firewall, okay? I'm going to turn off our firewall, and I'm going to disable DNS-Linux, and subsequently, I'm going to install EPEL release, okay? And EPEL release is nothing but extra package for enterprise Linux, okay? I just want to make sure all the packages we're going to need for this effort, we are going to get. The package I'm going to be using to install my DNS, the main package is called bind. Okay, it's called bind. But before I install that, let's get our system ready. Let's make sure our firewall is turned off. So before you install your DNS, you can, by default, actually, the port for DNS is port 53. By default, is port 53. Okay, that's the default port. However, you have an option to change the spot. Okay, and my domain name for this setup, you have to choose a domain name. My domain name will be DataNix.com. That is going to be my domain name, and I'm using double M because this is going to be my local environment. Okay, yum install prepare release, and this is going to install extra package, is adding another repository to my server so that I can pull from another repository other than the base repository. Okay, I'm using, by the way, I'm using Centos 7. So I'm going to use the systemctl disable firewall D to disable my firewall. Okay, let me check my Linux is disabled, so we're good. So now I want to start the installation of my DNS. Okay, and of course you want to make sure you set your host name, the host name of the machine. In my own case, this is my host name. I know I'm going to be using this as my domain name, so I already assigned fully qualified domain name. If you don't know how to do that, all you need to do is nmtui, and you can come to set host name. You can set your host name, and once you set your host name, you have to restart your computer for the new host name to reflect your computer. So I'm going to do yum install bind, and what this is going to do for me is going to install the bind package and all dependencies, and that's one of the benefit of yum package manager. It install the package you're calling and all dependencies that the package needs to satisfy the requirement. So you can see now it's doing some updates, it's doing some cleanup. So at the end of this, you're going to see the package that has been installed. Look at this. So now this install the bind package for me and all these dependencies right here, and also updated all these dependencies. So we're good. So now we have our bind. So the first thing we want to do, we want to go to the main configuration part of DNS. Okay, we are going to do, I like to use Vim. I like to use Vim. So the Vim package doesn't come with this server, and in order for me to have Vim, I have to install the package. So that's what I'm doing. And this should be good in a few seconds. Yep. The Etsy named.com. So this is the main configuration file of our DNS server, okay? And we can see from here, I'm going to set number using the set new command so that you can follow the number. On line 13, what I want to do, you can see this is the port that this is going to run on 53. I told you default. You're welcome to change this port. to whatever works for you. However, if you're going to be using this DNS with any other server, whichever port you're choosing, you have to make sure the port is open. Okay, if not, this is not going to work. Okay, I'm going to leave this at port 53. You have the option of having your IP right here, like 10.10.10.30. Okay, you have the option of doing this. But personally, I remove the local host IP and I just leave the new one. Right. So because I'm using IPv4, this is IPv4 and this is IPv6. Because I'm using IPv4, I'm going to go ahead and uncomment this. So a few things to look out for in this configuration. Few things to look out for. If you look at line 15, it's saying you have to know this directory, okay, because we are going to go to this directory later on. This is where our other configurations is going to be, okay? And also, look at line 21. You see where it says allow query. So for DNS, we can query our DNS. So when you have local host, it means you can only query your DNS from this server. But when I change this, if I change this to any, say I'm doing any, it means any server using this DNS, I can query from there. Okay, you're not limiting where you can run your query. Okay, personally, I like to, query from anywhere. Just want to have that flexibility of doing my query from anywhere. Okay, I think we can leave the rest. So the other thing you want to pay attention to, it's this file right here, Etsy named RFC 1912 zone. This is where we specify our zone, okay, line 53. So from this documentation, all I did was I modified line 13 to add my server IP. I commented out line 14. I added any to line 21. And I said, pay attention to line 59, okay, which is RFC 1912.zone, okay? So we are done with this file. We can go to /etc/named.rfc 19.zone, and this is where we specify our zone. Okay, so if we come to our zone right here, let me set the number once again, set new. On line 13, this is where we specify the domain we want to use. In this case, we have localhost, the local domain, okay? We have to change this to the domain we want to use. This can be your name.local. It can be, if you are setting this up for your organization should have a domain name, In my own case, it's going to be DataNix.com. DataNix.com, okay? And I have to specify the file name that I want my zone to use for my, my zone. So in this case, I am going to change this. I make this my forward zone. I can call this forward zone. I'll call this forward zone. And you want to pay attention to your directory, the directory we saw earlier on, the var/var/named. Okay. When we go in the file, we should be able to have forward zone and name.local. Forward zone, or you can make it forward.zone, doesn't matter, whatever name works for you. We just want to make sure we're not using name.local, and that's why I'm changing name.local to forward zone. Okay, so the second thing we want to do, you see where it says where we have our reverse zone. This is our reverse zone, and if you look at this, you'll notice our local IP is written in reverse mode. Ideally, our local IP would be something like 127.0.0.1, but it's written in reverse mode, which is 1.0.0.127. Okay, that is how I like to, explain to people, our reverse. You see, this is written in reverse mode. So what I would do, since remember in our name.conf, we saw this IP and we changed it to our system IP, which is 10.10.10.30. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here, and we're going to do it in reverse mode, 30.10.10.10. Okay, 30.10.10.10. Now we have to come here and say 30.10.10.10. And lastly, this last 30, we're going to take it out. Okay, we're going to take it out. So it's going to be 10.10.10. So technically, we are doing 10.10.10. And this last 30, we are taking it out. Because we are writing this in reverse mode, that's why we are 10.10.10. If your own IP is something like 192.168.1.20, and you're writing this in reverse mode, then you're going to have something like 192, you're going to have something like 20.1.168.192. This is what you're going to have. And at the end of the day, in your file, you're going to knock out the .20, and you're going to have 1.168.192. Okay? You're going to have these three instead of 4. So you're taking out the last 20, and that's what we did here. So that being said, we also notice that we have name.loopback right here. We also have name.loopback right here. We don't want to have the same name. So what we're going to do, and this can be any name as long as you know what you're doing. I'll call this reverse zone. Up here, or I can say reverse.zone. Right here we did forward.zone because these two files, name.local was here, but we changed this to be forward.zone. Name.loopback is here, and we have name.loopback was here also, but we changed this to reverse.zone. We just want to make sure we don't have the same file name. Okay, the same file name. Okay, you don't want to have the same file name. That's why we did that. And it can be any name. It doesn't have to be that specific name. And I am also done with this file. So that is the second file we're checking. The first file is name.conf. The second file is this file right here. So On the third thing we want to do, we want to go to cd/var/named. Okay, cd/var/named, and we're going to notice something. Remember, we saw name.localhost and we saw name.loopback, but we have them in two places. And we have them in two places, but because we don't want to have two files with the same name, we change one of the name to forward.zone, and we change one of this one to reverse.zone. So what we're going to do is, we want to copy the content of this name, the localhost, into forward.zone, and we copy the content of this name, the loopback, to reverse.zone. Now we're going to have all our files. Okay, so we can do copy and preserve. The P, just make sure that you retain the permission and the ownership on this file. So if you do name.localhost and forward it to forward.zone, and we do the same thing for loopback to reverse.zone. So if you look at this now, it still maintains the same, you see, username, owner and group name, okay? The same permission. We want to make sure it's the same permission and the same user. So at the end of the day, you can see we now have our name.local, reverse.zone, name.loopback, forward.zone. Let's go back to that file. Let's go back to that file, and we can see we have our forward.zone. It was initially named the localhost in both places, and we changed this to forward.zone, and also right here, it was named the loopback in both places, and we changed this to reverse.zone. And all we did was to copy the content of this file. We created another file called reverse.zone because name.loopback, we have name.loopback here and here before. So we copied the content and we created a new, we did the same thing here, and that's all we did. So now that we've done that, we now need to open our forward.zone and edit our forward.zone. We also need to open our reverse.zone and edit our reverse.zone, and we're done. Okay, let's start with forward.zone. So if you look at our forward.zone, you want to be very careful and very sensitive with what you're doing in this file. This is your forward zone where you enter your server information and how you want your DNS to resolve names. So what we're doing now is we're doing name matching, name and IP correlation between our IP and our name. That's what we're doing here pretty much. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to add my fully qualified domain name, okay, which is so everywhere you see at, you want to put your fully qualified domain name, which is your server name. In this case, I'm going to have prod OC DNS dot DataNix.com. Okay. In your forward zone, don't ever forget, at the end of every fully qualified domain name, you want to add the dot flag. You want to add the dot flag. Okay. At the end of every fully qualified domain name, you want to add the dot. And right here, we are going to do roots.datanix.com. Again, we add the dot. Okay. I don't know why this took out my comma. You want to make sure that is there. Okay. For some reason, this came out, so I put it back there. Okay. So this is another act right here. We want to also add prod ocdns dot datanix.com. Don't forget the dot. Okay. And we have to add the IP address of our machine 10.10.30. Okay. I'm going to take this area code out. And right here, we have to match, you see, in SOA. And this is why I like to use Vim. You see, it's changing the color for me to match things. If this is not right, it's also going to help me, you know, with the color. So, um, so now we need to start adding our server. I have a couple of servers I would like to add to this. But first and foremost, I would like to add my DNS server itself, just for my own sanity. You know, I'm gonna add my pro DNS in a, and now I am going to add, you know, 10.10.10.30, and I can subsequently come here and just, you know, clean this up. You know. So I like to arrange things in this manner. I have other machine that I would like to add. Like I have, so I have, so you can start adding your machine to the DNS. So I don't want to do this twice. So you just need to add all the server in your environment to this list. So this is the forward list. Let me do this. Let me copy this to make it fast. And now I can just edit this and make this 2, 3, 4. All I need to do is change the IP. It's 18, 19, 20. So this is how I configure my forward. And pretty much what I need to do for this is I can add all the server in my environment. If I have 1,000 server in my environment, as long as they're going to be using this DNS to do their result, I have to come into this forward zone and add all the entry. Once I'm done, I have to do the same thing for reverse zone, reverse. So for the reverse, I'll also come right here, starting from where I have my ads. I can delete all this. I can delete all this and do prod ocdns.datanix.com dot root .datanix.com dot, and I can come right here and say prod ocdns.datanix.com dot. I've done my A record before, I've done this, so I have to specify my local host, which is prod DNS OC DNS .datanix.com. And now, remember in our configuration, we added the three of the 4 octets, and we missed one. This is where we put the last one. In my own case now, it's going to be 30. So we still need to do our in. Okay, you just have to understand the formatting of this in. Okay, in. Okay. Okay, I like to format this very well. Now, for all my other server, like for my every server in the environment, now I have to take the last octet, which is, in this case, I have 17. Okay, I have 17 in PTR, and I have a server which is prod oc1.datanix.com. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just like I did before. I'm going to copy this. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to change it to, this is 18, this is 19, and this is 20. I'm going to go ahead and change the name to okay. So pretty much for all the servers in your environment, you're going to come to the forward and reverse. And the reverse, this is what you're going to do. You're going to add the last octet for the forward. So let me go ahead and save this. So for the forward, you had all the server. If you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 server in the environment, you have to do this for all the server in the environment. If you want to use this particular DNS server, okay, you have to come in the forward and reverse of this server and make sure you're adding your entry in this server. Okay, let me go back to what we did from beginning. The first thing I did was to come to the main DNS configuration file, which is name.com. Which is name.com. I opened it somewhere before. Okay, which is this file, and I did set, and in this file, I told you guys you want to, if you're using IPv6, then you want to comment IPv4 and set your IPv6 IP. But in my own case, I'm using IPv4, so I'm commenting my IPv6 out here. And I said, take note of this directory, the var name directory, because that's where you are putting your forward and reverse configuration. And I said 21 by default is going to be localhost. This is saying you can query only from the localhost, but I want to be able to query from any server using this DNS server. And lastly, I said pay attention to this last file, RFC 1912. That was it for this file. We went to the RFC 1912 file, which is where we specify our zone. And the first thing we did was, we identified what we want to use for our domain name. In this case, is DataNix.com. And by default, we're going to have name.localhost here and name.localhost here. So we are changing the name of the first one on number 15 to whatever we would like. In my own case, I changed it to forward.zone because what I want to put in this file is by forward entry. So it only makes sense to add something that says forward, and that's why I have forward right here. And right here, I came right here. By default, this is going to be 1.0.0.127, which is writing our localhost IP in reverse mode, which I showed you right here. So localhost IP is 127.0.0.1, but it's written in reverse mode, 1.0.0.127. So I added our IP in reverse mode, which was 30.10.10.10, and I took out the last 30, which we're going to use subsequently. And I also did an example that if our IP is 192.168.1.20 and we want to write that in reverse, we have to be 21.168.192. And if we're taking the last octet out, then it's going to be the last octet out right here. Then it's going to be 1.168.192. Okay. We have the same file named we have the same file named the loopback. So we change this to revert the zone, and pretty much we change forward the zone, revert the zone. We only change 13, 15, and 33 in this file. Okay. We went straight to our var named file right here, and this reverse the zone wasn't there, forward the zone wasn't there, but because we changed, we had two named the local host and we changed one to forward the zone. So my assumption is that, okay, let's copy the name.localhost and recreate the same thing. But because we changed the name to forward zone, let's change the name also. And we did that. We copied the content of this to this. We copy the content of this to this. So that way, we have the 4 files we had in our previous configuration, which are, these are the files we have. If you note, we have number 15, we have 1, number 21, we have 2, number 28, 27, we have 3, number 33, we have 4, and number 39, we have 5. We have 5 files, okay? We have 5 files. If we go into this, we have the same files. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we just want to make sure all our files are in there. Let me make sure. We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have the whole 5 files. Okay. The only one we have here that is not there is the CA, which is this. Okay, we don't have to worry about that, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is good, and that's what we want to have. And after that, I went into those files, forward zone. We configure the forward zone. You want to look at this and make sure you're matching things. We also configure the reverse zone. These are the 2 zones we need to configure, okay? And after that, we have to go into our /etc/resolve, which is our DNS where you put our DNS entry. Okay. This is where we put our DNS entry. And from here, we can see we have um, two names. Actually, in Linux, we can have three DNS entry. We can specify three DNS entry. Um, just in case if one of the server is down, we can use the other one. So this is what you want to do. Let's take out the Google DNS just to make sure our DNS works. So you use the IP address of your DNS machine. Our DNS machine is 10.10.10.30, so we're using the IP address of the DNS one, and we're searching our domain name. So if I do this right now, so this is the moment of truth. If your DNS, if we're able to start our DNS successfully, yeah, I can say, yeah, things are probably working right. But good thing about DNS is that if it doesn't work, if our DNS doesn't work, it's going to tell us it's not going to start. Okay. Um, if it starts, that means, so let's go ahead and start our DNS server. We can start this in so many ways. Okay. We can do service named. The service name is named. And we can do service name start. Okay, as we can see, service named status. So this shows our DNS is running and active. That's good. Okay, and this is good. Okay, so another thing we want to do is let's try and do NS lookup. NS lookup. So now remember, we had mentioned in our first configuration file that you can query, that we can query DNS. Let's say we want to query our DNS. Okay, we want to query 10.10.10.30. But in this case, we are querying from the local host, the local machine, but I modified that to say query from any. So if I do ns lookup, so no such file, which means ns lookup is actually not installed. Okay, just in case you stumble on this type of error, just do yum install bind utils. Okay, just install this guy. This should install the pack. So it's just saying the package that brings this utility is not installed. Okay, and I just installed that. So if we do this now we can see it's querying this forward, reverse. Okay, reverse, forward. Okay, so now let's do something. Let's do the same thing with 10.10.17. Did you see that? 18. And the reason why this guy is able to know all these things is because we've added all these things in the forward and the reverse. Okay? Okay? There are so many commands we can use in DNS. You can use dig. Okay, dig is another good command you can use. But let's go ahead to this other server. So this is one of my DNS server. This is not. I mean, this is one of my cluster server. This is another one. Let's see. I don't know why that is taking forever before it comes up. Okay. Okay. So this is the plot. So if I do ns lookup, 10.10.10. Let's say 10.10.10.30. it failed. It says, I don't know who that is. Why? Let's go to the VRSC result. Because this guy is using a different DNS server. So he doesn't even know who that is, okay? Let's change this guy's DNS server also to 30. Okay? And let's do the same thing again, NS local. Now you can find it because the DNS this guy is using now is able to look up. I'm going to use two DNS eventually, but one of the servers is down, so that's why I'm just adding that entry. So I want to copy this to every other server. I want to copy the content of this guy to every other server. I can just do this, and it's gonna go to the other server, 18, 19. Okay, so I have it in this server now. 18, 19. Okay, I have it there, and then let's look up. Let's say, let me just look up 10.10.10.17. Is able to look it up. Let me look up prod OC1. Is able to look it up. Okay, that's what we wanted to achieve with this. Yeah, and if we do, and let's look up and let me look up 17 also. Is able to look it up. Let me look up prod OC2.DataNix.com. It won't look it up because I failed one of the M. Now you can see right here it failed because I failed one of the M, and right here it passed. Simply saying I'm using this DNS server on port 53, and this is the name of the server you're asking for, and this is the IP address. This is how DNS works. Now my environment is using DNS 30, and I can also come to my machine right here. This is my window machine. I can pretty much tell my window machine, you know what? I want you to use my DNS server. I can come to my internet and I can go to my change adapter option on my this is my machine property. Can come to internet protocol IPv4 and I can change this to use my I can change this to use that. Validate. Okay. Yeah. So that is going to start using my DNS also. So I just showed you how to change the window to use your DNS. If I come here and I do IP config, that should pretty much, let's give it some time, that should change my DNS entry to the new DNS server I just changed to, and from there I should be able to resolve. Hmm. Okay, for actually I can do NS lookup, and it should be able to tell me, oh, right here. See, this is telling me my DNS. Doing NS lookup, I'm able to see my, so now my Windows machine is pretty much using this DNS. Also, um, that is the end of, you know, the DNS class. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.